Everyone doing? I am Mobile Master Tech, and this is going to be a long one, you guys. So yesterday on some unfortunate news, we had a passing in the family recently, and we had to go and collect belongings and things. So I ended up going on a trip to uh Smyrna, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, from Ocala. Okay. Now, if you look on here, this is roughly a 380-mile trip. We did take a couple of stops here and there, but we followed this path. This path right here that you see, 5 hours, 31 minutes. We followed that path. Seen a lot of things. Stopped at the Buc-ee's over here, somewhere around like Macon Perry area, I think. We stopped around there. But for the most part, we kept it pushing. We ended up in Atlanta for a little bit downtown, and I'll have some results for that. Seeing some really cool findings there. But I just want to talk really quick. A lot to talk about. Tyrone from Techlifechannel, he, talked about it as well, and I'm going to talk about it some more. I really want to hammer home what my experience was with all three carriers on this trip. Actually, I thought it was 700 miles. It's really more closer to 760 miles, maybe even closer to 800-mile trip in the southeast, right? From Ocala, Florida over here, all the way over to Smyrna, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, northwest of Atlanta. So first things first, and this has to be addressed, and I'm sorry that I keep having to do this. AT&T's coverage map, man, oh man, this is false advertisement. It's not future coverage. It's not. I don't want to hear any of that. It's false advertisement is what it is. I really do believe the FCC should take a really good look at this and really question AT&T what they're actually claiming on their maps. They need to dial this down. This is not, if you see 5G plus on their maps, I highly encourage you to look and see where it really is. And I can tell you, just looking at Ocala, going down I-75, no. First of all, over here, nothing. There is no tower in this area. Zuber, Martin, Kent, none of these areas. There's no C-band site. The closest C-band tower is roughly around here, and it doesn't go all the way over here. This is a lot of miles. It doesn't do that. They're lying. Over Anthony, no. Spar, no. There's no C-band towers. None. Zero. Over here, no. Silver Springs, no. It's just not there. And so what I experienced on the way there, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just, Central Florida. No, it wasn't. The lies were spread. Oh my gosh. Okay, going over here, I know where this tower is. Nothing. 320. There's a tower roughly. Let's see. We're talking 320. There's nothing there. AT&T has no sites over here. They're lying. Gainesville. They had some C-band here. It wasn't this big. They're lying, but there was decent amount, and that's a good market for them. They have their speed test server is in Gainesville. I do notice they have their own fiber in Gainesville, so you would think there would be truthful. It's good. It's better than Ocala, but they're lying. So I went to Lake City, and let me tell you something about this particular part of the map. The only way I seen this right here was when I got to the Lake City city limits. So around this area right here, as soon as you leave, it's gone, right? You leave, I'm on I-75 again. And I guess this is more truthful to experience right here because they clearly say it's not going to be here for the rest of your trip to Florida. Guess who had this up here? Verizon and T-Mobile, right? They had it in spades. Mid-band was everywhere. I don't think I lost mid-band over here on this stretch from either one of them. I think T-Mobile very small and Verizon very small as well. But even then, they had mid-band. T-Mobile had 20 megahertz of N71 in some of these spots and 20 megahertz of N25 in some of these spots. And if it was on NSA, it was coupled with that either anywhere from 20 to 15 megahertz of band 66 and some more band 2 spectrum. You know, they got a lot of band 2 from Sprint and Verizon. Very similar boat, a lot of LTE, but for the most part, I had a lot of C-band on Verizon. Now we get to Valdosta, and of course, once again, AT&T really did have 5G plus, and a lot of it, this stretch could be somewhat true. I don't think it's 100% true, but it's somewhat. No, Adele, once you got to the Adele city limits, yes, they had it. After that, around here, it stopped right here. It stopped. They're lying. Tifton, same way. As soon as you get to Tifton, they had it, and then slightly over, it's gone. This is probably a little bit bigger, and then you go over here. Now, T-Mobile N41 almost throughout the 85% of this trip, 80 to 85%, in the margin of error, T-Mobile had N41. Now, I didn't test Verizon until on my way back. What I found from them, I would say Verizon had C-band, maybe, and I'm just being honest, about 65% of the trip. About 65%. Maybe 70. Maybe 70. But I would say if I had to take a guess, roughly 65. It was a lot of LTE still. So 65% of the trip, I'm standing on that. Perry, Florida, I'm trying to remember. I know Macon was T-Mobile land. It was just T-Mobile land. So we traveled up here. We went to, all the way into Atlanta. And then everybody got good, obviously. But I seen more density from T-Mobile than anyone else once we got to Atlanta. And we ended up in Smyrna, wherever that is, right here. We ended up around this area, and that's where we ended up. Now, we did end up going to Atlanta. We went to the city limits and went to eat at this one place called Halahal or something like that. It's a gyro and like sandwich place, really good, in downtown Atlanta. And once again, I seen small cells from Verizon and T-Mobile. T-Mobile had an N41 small cell doing 20 megahertz and 100 megahertz of N41. 20 megahertz of N25, 100 megahertz of N41, but they wouldn't aggregate. So you're either on one or the other. And then Verizon had a millimeter wave small cell. I was able to get millimeter wave indoors. However, I do believe the speeds were capped to around 2 gigs on that small cell, and the uplink was over 400. So it was a good time. And the fact that it went inside, and yes, I have video for that. I'm gonna post it probably in a short, because it was a pretty short video, but you will see Verizon using that 650 megahertz of N41, N261, or the 28 gigahertz band of millimeter wave in action indoors, no problem. Didn't switch over. It was cool. Till I went in the restroom, and then C-band took over, and that was fine. The speeds were great. AT&T in the same area, once again, they were slow. I don't know what was going on. It's obviously they weren't slow throughout my whole trip in downtown. They did well. It was 600, 700, but in my testing, I found it hard pressed to find gigabit speeds on AT&T, where on Verizon, especially T-Mobile, it was normal. 85 miles an hour, getting 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. 1.4 gigabits per second, like, is nothing. Like, the amount of multi-gig backhaul that I seen from T-Mobile was more than the other two. And I can confidently say that because I tested T-Mobile in the daylight. I tested Verizon more towards the night. So obviously the load on Verizon was lower when I tested it, kind of giving them an advantage, if you so to speak. So if I was going to see multi-gig speeds on Verizon, and I have on a few, but just nowhere near as much as T-Mobile, I would have seen it then. And I continued to test AT&T at night because I wanted to see what the LTE difference was. So AT&T's LTE speeds at night were actually pretty good. They went up, the hundreds a lot of the time, just, about 185, really good speeds. Nothing to scoff at. But it was an LTE like experience. This is the thing about AT&T. So I feel like the experience going there was an LTE experience with a sprinkle of 5G plus, a sprinkle of the future, so to speak. I'm not saying AT&T is doomed, far from it. They have the that new spectrum they just got from FirstNet, but they need to densify to build it. They couldn't do it right now in this current grid. All I seen from AT&T was tall sites, long stretches. T-Mobile, they had mid to tall sites, short stretches. I seen plenty of standalone T-Mobile sites. Obviously, I did see some standalone AT&T sites. It's not like I didn't. They had their fair share. But man, the amount of investment that I seen from T-Mobile was insane. I didn't know. I thought the minute I left Florida and went to Georgia and crossed that Florida-Georgia borderline, T-Mobile was just going to be garbage. Because I remember how it was the last time I went to Georgia a couple of years ago. Man, they've been busy. Let me tell you, N41 all over the place. And when you weren't, it was okay because their PCS and AWS holdings are so massive, even the N71, that you still was hitting 100, 200 megabits per second. I can't say the same for AT&T. I can't even say the same for Verizon. Their LTE is good. Verizon's LTE is good. It is. But I think T-Mobile has something going here. Now, let me talk about the voice over NR experience on T-Mobile. AT&T, my iPhone 15 Pro Max, won't allow it yet, so I couldn't test them. Verizon, my S24 that I also had tested on the way back. While the toggle is there, and I tried to force it even, it wasn't going. It didn't work. Even in Atlanta downtown, I couldn't get it to go to standalone. So I seen the massive difference now that they have voice over NR. I did a 1-hour phone call with my sister on Verizon, and I did one with T-Mobile. And I did like a 30-minute phone call with my mom on AT&T. And AT&T was cutting in and out. It was bad. I'm not trying to, I want AT&T to succeed. I want to see 3 great networks. The calling experience of AT&T was just the worst. Verizon was very good with some small stretches of like, and then T-Mobile was just, it was good too. It was great actually. But there was one stretch where I went to band 12. I feel like the handoff wasn't that great. And it stayed on LTE from in that phone call for a little bit. I got to a rest station and then, I hung up because I had to go use the restroom. And then from there, I did no more LTE. It was 5G from here on out. If it switched over, it was 600. I never lost service on any provider. Let me make that perfectly clear. AT&T didn't lose service. Verizon, T-Mobile, I did not lose service. The only time I lost service on AT&T actually was when I went into the restroom at the very same rest stop that I stopped at. I actually went to satellite mode on my iPhone. Couldn't believe it. T-Mobile, full service. Verizon had like 3 bars. Everybody was fine except for AT&T. I said, okay, well, this is telling. Okay, I thought this was an Ocala thing. No, this is far beyond this. I want to show you some results. Now, I really wish that I could show you AT&T's results. Unfortunately, on speed test, for whatever reason, all the tests that I had, it only kept around to like 7 o'clock. I ran speed tests from like 9 o'clock in the morning all the way to on AT&T all the way to like midnight. So I lost a ton of tests to show you guys to back up the claims. So we started on, this was yesterday, and let me go way back. I gotta go way back. Okay, yesterday, this is the 8th. So yesterday was the 10th. I want to say, yeah, from here, from 1031 onwards. So all of these are what you're seeing right now. Is T-Mobile speed test. This is all T-Mobile. You see 560. And I want you to just see from 560 onwards how crazy T-Mobile speeds were. Little, like right here, not that great. For the most part, look at it. 1 gig, 1 gig, 1 gig, 170. That's probably what's one of the times where I wasn't on N41, 900, a lot of hundreds over there. That probably was a little stretch of no N41, just a couple minutes. See how I was running it a lot. 700, 800, 200, very few in between. Did I get, really bad speed tests. This is probably the worst one I got. I don't know what happened. I think I was in just a really bad coverage area. But even then, the downlink was able to go. I was able to stream, no problem. It was great. And you can see the speeds are they're really good, right? Couple speeds, but for the most part, really good. And I would call this consistent. I would call this consistency. This is a long stretch, mind you. This is 380 miles there. Now, around, and I know exactly where I stopped. And I'll show you. Okay, right here, 17. This is where Verizon began. And I tested Verizon from there on out. It was Verizon land. And as you can see, it didn't start out too hot. This was when I was already in where am I? Okay, this is when I was already in Smyrna, Georgia. We left the house around maybe 7. So I ran quite a bit there. They kind of had bad coverage. Don't mind these 0 ones. So these 0 ones, I tried to, there's a bug in speed test. If you try to split screen now, sometimes it'll go to 0, even though I seen what it was, but it'll report it as 0. So then when I caught on to that, and then I stopped using the split screen, I had to go back and forth, which sucks. I kind of missed my fold for that reason, where it didn't have that problem. But it is what it is. So don't mind those 0. Don't mind that. That's not true. Yeah, but the rest was Verizon, and you can see the speeds, they're not bad, right? 230, 246, 505, 829. And that 829, I want to say, no, it wasn't the small cell. I'll tell you when we got to small cell. But we were close. So these were downtown for sure. Anytime between 620 all the way to here was downtown. Okay? And like I said, 900, 800. This was great. So around here at 6:55, we stopped over to that is called House or something like that. It's a Euro and sandwich place. They have spicy sandwich, really good actually. I don't know if you guys ever seen it. And this is where I started seeing the millimeter wave speeds. Very nice, right? I did some of these tests indoors, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was this 909 one, this 812, this one, all these were indoors at the place while I was waiting on my food. And some of it was on millimeter wave. I think these last 2 were on C-band. And then I went outside and I proceeded to get more millimeter wave. It was definitely capped around the 2 mark. And then 400, it was good. So after that, obviously we left. After, I would say, probably, there was a little stretch I couldn't do any tests. I was on a phone call. So around here at this low speed test, I think I was in a phone call when I took that speed test. And I showed Techlifechannel some of the tests. I showed him some of the calling tests that I was doing as I was in a call on T-Mobile, 5, 6, 700 down in a call, where Verizon was doing more like 3, 4, 12, 13, and AT&T was about the same. So I want to see if that's going to show up in route metrics. It has to. And here was the rest. This is from the rest of the trip. You see, I did a lot of Verizon testing, like a lot. Probably more than T-Mobile even. And it's funny because AT&T got the most testing, but I lost the data, and that sucks. You can see all of this, 600. It's a lot. It's so much. So it's very good speeds. You can see the consistency starting to kick in, 5, 6. There was a little stretch. There was a little stretch for about 40, 50 miles. I didn't see any C-band. It's just LTE. But for the most part, Verizon was very good. And you can see it still going. It was 10. We're still in Georgia. I think we got to Florida around 11 something. And Verizon, I would also consider a consistent experience. If you're looking at it, is it as fast as T-Mobile? No, but very good and very consistent. And I wouldn't be mad at these speeds. And we ended it around, let's see, at that point, here, 12:40 now is the last one for Verizon before I called it quits because I was already coming. I was in Marion County. I know Verizon is in Marion County. Didn't need to, beat around the bush with that. Also, and I'll show you on this, on T-Mobile, lots of tests, right? We seen a bunch of tests. So N41, I've seen all kind of different configurations. I try to take as many pictures as possible of some of the configurations. This is a Verizon one. T-Mobile speed test. AT&T. You're going to see a lot of this from AT&T. Speed tests were not good. When I took this one, I took this one. Do you see that? Yeah, it was that serious. And you see the time. I'm not lying about this. 11:35, 11:33. That's how it was. AT&T. And these are the same ones I was showing Tyrone, Nick, one of my buddies. I couldn't believe it. T-Mobile, AT&T. T-Mobile, AT&T. Same, right? T-Mobile, AT&T. AT&T. And yeah, I don't know, what happened with that. And you can see right there, Smyrna, Atlanta, where I did go there. All kind of configuration on T-Mobile. This was a weird one. So this was 30 megahertz. I forgot which part of Georgia it was. It was more southern Georgia. But it was 30 megahertz. And then out of nowhere, 20 megahertz would show up of N41 as well. But they wouldn't all aggregate together, right? So you can see we had, and there's that 20. So there's actually the 30 and the 50 are there, but it wouldn't aggregate with this 20. Don't know why. That's how they have it configured. But we still had a good 60 megahertz going, and speeds were good. Now, these are one of the times where I was in the city limits with AT&T, and their speeds started to pick up. I'm not saying AT&T had no good speeds. You will see soon enough they did in some areas. And you can see right here that N41 it picked up with the N25 4-channel carrier aggregation. And this one was, you see this. So once I got around Tifton, Georgia area, I started seeing N25 at a massive 25 megahertz channel block. And these, coupled with N41, 60 megahertz, a 40 megahertz channel, a 20, and N71. Now, T-Mobile's big problem is fragmentation, right? AT&T, if they build, and this was a speed test that I got from there, and this was the second one I got from the same one. Now, the good news is when N25 was leading, at a massive pipe that big at 25 megahertz, the upload was great. You can see right here, fantastic uploads. And AT&T in the same areas, well, you see how it was. There was no competition, and that was just the theme. AT&T was so far behind. Look at this cool one right here. 100 megahertz of N41, 25 megahertz of N25, and the 190. They had it all. They had it all. And I didn't actually get a speed test on there, did I? No, I didn't. I should have. I didn't. It was a lot going on. I'm trying to, get to this. This was, not technically supposed to be a trip like this, but since I was going, I went ahead and did the thing. So, yeah, you can see AT&T. Look at this. You can see how bad it was. And I really tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. T-Mobile. Now, I did notice T-Mobile's ping times were not as good as they are in Florida, right? In Georgia, you can see those ping times. That's 59, or 61, 53. It kind of mimics what AT&T looks like in Florida. And this is me in a phone call. T-Mobile, 300 something. This is AT&T when I actually got to another city limit place when it got quite good. And this is them in a phone call, only 30. Okay. Verizon was just as kind of with it. So you see again, and you get the picture. T-Mobile, even with fragmentation, somehow was just so impressive, and AT&T was just mid, right? But that ping time was really good. But look at you see what I'm dealing with here. Yeah, T-Mobile was just dominating. It wasn't even fair. It wasn't fair. Verizon, and let me speak on Verizon for a second. I think they did good. You've seen the averages. I showed you that. Verizon did very well on their way back. I really wish I could have tested them. I only had one SIM card in this particular phone, and this phone had my Verizon line, and I really wanted to see what it was about because I got the visible line. This line had the Verizon. I had a free trial is what I had, and it was a fresh free trial, so I was able to really do some testing without worrying about slowdown. And yeah, as you can see, it's just at this point I'm in Atlanta, right? Coming into the skyline really soon, and T-Mobile is still just showing out, and AT&T started to get better, but sorry, it's blurry, but you can see it's 1.137 and like 139 down. Their density was insane. AT&T, very good. I don't know whose small cell this is. Let me know who it is, but somebody's. I thought it was a T-Mobile one because I don't know AT&T and Verizon ones that have things like that. But anyways, that's basically it. That's my discoveries on this trip. Roughly 750, 760, maybe even 770 miles of a trip. And I noticed that T-Mobile made great strides, dominating, whether you're using voice over NR, even if you're not on N41, it was more consistent. Like towers out the yin yang, standalone sites with just them. AT&T had a few too, Verizon had a few, but I seen more from T-Mobile. And it was just a great experience overall on Verizon, on T-Mobile, and then on AT&T. It was just an okay experience. It was just mid. You've seen some of those speed tests barely want it to work. There was times where I was trying to upload to show my findings, with Techlifechannel. I couldn't. It wouldn't upload. I had to wait until I got around the site. I even showed my sister who was on the trip with me, passed by several AT&T sites and did speed tests on T-Mobile, and T-Mobile was hitting 700, 800, 900 down, and the site's not even around, and AT&T is right there, line of sight, and you're only hitting like 60, 70 down. Like, it was that bad. It really was. And that just was the experience. Now, that's not to say that AT&T is never going to catch them. It's going to happen within the next 2 years. T-Mobile has already moved on. They're probably focusing on extreme rural areas and maybe a couple of fill-ins here and there, maybe some small cells. But for the most part, they've moved on. It's a wrap. So AT&T really has nowhere to go but up when the C-band gets deployed, and same for Verizon. They're closing in fast, and I see the work that Verizon's putting in. They're not playing games. Um, what I do realize though is T-Mobile had a lot of multi-gig sites. For someone that doesn't have owner's economics of their fiber, why did they have more multi-gig towers than Verizon and AT&T? It didn't register with me how that happened. I suspect they cut deals with these companies far long ago. They only have to worry about third party and negotiating down these prices. Maybe they have better buying power since Verizon and AT&T own a lot of their fiber, and so it kind of reduces competition where T-Mobile's like, well, I'll give you this. Verizon and AT&T, they're not coming to you because they have their own fiber. So maybe it reduces competition. Who knows? But they didn't seem to have a problem deploying multi-gig sites, even in the middle of nowhere, even in the rural areas of Georgia. I've seen it here in Ocala too. It's the same story. So really cool to see. I know we're approaching the end of the year. We're in November now, and we don't have much longer. So I really want to see AT&T next year do what T-Mobile has been doing. I want to see them go crazy. I don't think they're going to, but I hope they do. Verizon, they're getting close anyway. So they just need to continue doing what they're doing. The Verizon way, the most small cells, the most consistent network on a nationwide scale. Even if it's LTE, they are good. I can say with absolute confidence, if it wasn't for this channel, I would drop AT&T from my phones. I don't need them. They're the master of none. They're just kind of here. They're not doing enough. I don't feel like they're doing enough. Maybe they might do it, and this could be completely anecdotal. There's other people, but a lot of people say on their findings that they're seeing the same thing. They're seeing the same thing. Root Metrics basically backs up the exact same data. So at this point, it's more than a foregone conclusion that AT&T has a ton of work to do. Not to say T-Mobile doesn't. They have plenty. Verizon has plenty. It's going to take more time for AT&T to show their legs, in this race. And they could very well pull the same thing that they did in the LTE era. LTE, they were last until they weren't at the end, where they kind of leapfrogged T-Mobile and Verizon when they decided to do a full modernization. It could happen again. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to happen again this time. I think Verizon and T-Mobile are just so far gone. T-Mobile's moving on to LTE Advanced, and AT&T is still trying to get voice over NR rolled out, where T-Mobile has it now rolled out at a national scale. So we'll see about that. But that's going to do it. This is probably the longest video I've ever done on the channel. So, make sure you're comfortable and get some snacks and stuff, because this was a long one. Sorry to hold you in for the people that listen to the whole thing. You're the real ones. I appreciate you. Just showing the findings, the honest to God truth, the most unbiased way I possibly can. I know it doesn't seem like it's unbiased because AT&T seems to always do so badly, but I promise you that it's just how it is in my region. Other regions could be better, but here, no, AT&T, they are solidified as the carrier that needs the most work. They need to get away from cities and start going into rural and suburban with their mid-band. If they can do that, they would start looking much more attractive. Their C-band seems to go further than Verizon's because they don't use dual band antennas. They use one for C-band, one for DoD. And then, yeah, it's just, they gotta do something. Anyways, that's gonna do it. If you like what you see on the channel, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Follow me on X at Terrell352. And until the next video, I'm out.